Everyone, welcome. This is your brand new episode of Tell Me I'm a Good Mom. And if you are new to the show, please follow, subscribe, wherever you're listening or watching. I so appreciate the community that we are building here. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let's jump into today's episode. It is a good one, and it's one that's very personal for me, given my birth story and where I am currently at. So our guest today is Meaghan O'Connell. She spent years as a senior editor at Romper, where she commissioned and edited a national magazine award-winning package on C-sections. And she also wrote a book that you have probably heard of, and she needed this book when she became a mother. It didn't exist back then. It's called And Now We Have Everything on Motherhood Before I Was Ready, and it was named one of the best books of 2018 by NPR. And it's brutally honest. It is an agenda-free account of what becoming a mother actually does to you. No silver lining forced upon it, no advice. I actually think that Meaghan paved the way for a show like this one. She was writing then what we're only now starting to really talk about more openly. So welcome, Meaghan. Hi, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad you're doing this.
We are matching in our blue outfits today. I love it. If you're watching the episode, Meaghan and I are matching, everybody. So I really want to start with kind of what I just really touched on, is that we're really just starting to have these conversations openly. And so what is the thing you still haven't seen anyone say out loud about becoming a mom?
I'm about to go back to school to become a therapist, and I was just reading some psychoanalytic theory from 1950, and Winnicott, he's the guy that talked about you just have to be the good enough mother, but he was like, there's so many reasons for moms to hate their baby. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
And he listed 18 reasons. And in some ways I was like, this guy is ahead of where we are now on the internet. But just that, this baby comes along and is now dictating your life. I just remember feeling so overwhelmed. Even the love felt like a trap in a way. It just, it comes and changes everything. And I do think that is a taboo. I don't want to say I ever hated my baby, but of course there's
What do you mean by that? That the love is a trap? Double click on that for me, because I don't know what you mean, and I want you to tell me what you mean.
I just remember with a new baby, there's part of me that wanted to run out of the house, and perhaps never come back. But then you leave the house and then you're like, oh, missing the baby and worrying about the baby, and maybe your boobs are filling up with milk if you're breastfeeding, and you realize now I've crossed this Rubicon, and I love this little potato more than myself and more than I knew, and in some ways it's just you're never gonna not be worried again.
It's interesting. I was talking to my brother about having a new baby, because he's a dad of two now. Him and his wife had their second child just a couple weeks after I had my first, my daughter. And I said, Chris, when does this start to feel less surreal? When does the baby feel real to you, like a person, more than just that little potato that you just mentioned? And he was like, it takes a year. It takes a year and a half for you to really understand and recognize that this is a little person. And that really resonated with me, because I think that there are so many things that still go unsaid. And I think that these conversations are so important. And the things that go unsaid don't always have to be bad per se, right? Yeah. They can be just curiosities to a certain degree. I think it's really an interesting piece of the human condition, us, making babies and then raising them and figuring out who they are, or they figure out who they are. I think one of the conversations I have also seen online in recent years is that some of the content about pregnancy and motherhood scares moms to be. And you wrote something, I think, about this. I think you said, what if instead of worrying about scaring pregnant women, people told them the truth? What if pregnant women were treated like thinking adults? And like when you wrote that, were you scared? Because that is a really radical thing to say, I think, at the time when you wrote it. And like, yes, even the conversation we're having right now feels different than I think back then.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think about that? Do you think things have actually changed from when you first were writing your tiny letter and your book?
In some, like I'm a different person. I feel like I would write a completely different book if I wrote about that time now.
Really?
Yeah. But in some ways it wouldn't be as, close to the bone. I think like now I'm like, well, we shouldn't scare pregnant people.
Hmm.
But at the time, to me, and like I'm an anxious person, but the idea that a friend would be holding back and not telling me what her experience was because she didn't want to make me feel bad is like my nightmare. Like I want to know. It doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. I tell like pregnant people, I'm like, your birth story will probably be better than mine. It's just, it doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. It doesn't, but I think to me it's comforting to know like all these possible things, and hopefully you have a better experience. But if you don't, you'll be like, oh, I'm not the only person that, had a C-section and they didn't want to. Like this is one of the things that can happen, and it's not the end of the world. I think women are capable of their doctor say, just I want to know what the doctor knows. Like I want to have the conversation about risk and reward, and um, you know, I want I don't want them to be like patronizing, I guess. I don't know. There's something um and that makes me more scared, I think, as an anxious person. I'm like, what are you not telling me?
As a fellow anxious person, I
Yeah.
think we try to problem solve for the future, right? Anxiety is all about just living in the future and not about living in the present. And so you try
Yeah.
to, like check every box that you possibly can. And when I was pregnant, I think I was very similar. I was constantly seeking information, seeking anecdotes, seeking stories. But this is something that I actually like want to push you on because I think that
Yeah.
you and I kind of feel the same way about it. And like, I'm pretty sure that you feel and say that if somebody had told you the truth, you would have been more prepared. But I'm not really sure that I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think that there are things that are so physically and emotionally overwhelming that you just genuinely cannot understand them until you have lived them. So, like, even if you tell me what's coming, even if we check all the boxes mentally and we buy all the stuff and we prepare and we have all the conversations, like, it doesn't really matter.
No. And I do, yeah, that is one of the things, like the subtitle of my book on motherhood before I was ready. It's like, when would you ever have been ready? Like, um, yeah. And also, I remember my mom telling me, like, reading all these things, it's not going to help you. It's just going to create anxiety, and I was like, screw you, like I need to read everything at 3 in the morning to feel better. But like, I can see now, medicated and 10 years out from that.
Medicated. I love that. A different perspective when you're medicated. I want to go back to wait, if you were going to rewrite the book now, what would that book be? I was so touched by it, specifically the parts about where you talk about giving birth. And I saw myself, in your experience so much. And I felt so validated and I felt like it was so brutally honest. So I really am curious, like, what do you mean if you wrote it again, it would be different?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to capture that immediacy in the same way, but I do think it's hard to say because sometimes I wish in the book I had almost had an afterword. Like, I was dealing with postpartum anxiety and depression, and I honestly didn't know that when I wrote that book. I was like kind of figuring it out, um, but in some ways I wonder if that would like alienate some people or say like, well, that's not my experience, so like this doesn't apply to me, or I do think it's not so black and white of like.
I don't know. I think writing about it in the moment when you are in that postpartum period reflects like the true feelings of that moment. Writing
Yeah.
about it retroactively, like again, softens the edges,
Totally. Yeah.
you
And I
know?
do think, do you have that experience where like older moms are like, oh, they just you forget, you romanticize it in the past and like it is romantic in a lot of ways
Well,
that you move
yeah, I'm already like, like pregnancy wasn't so bad, but I
on.
actually
Yeah.
had a pretty brutal pregnancy. But like I identify in what you just said because I have been sharing a lot of content on my socials about my pregnancy and my postpartum and now this show with this
Mhm.
like I don't consider it to be radical honesty. I'm just telling people how I feel and I'm not putting like a cover over it or a shield. I'm
Yeah.
not hiding the truth from people. But I wonder through it all because I still am in this postpartum period. I'm like, am I freaking people out? Not only my friends and family that are like, "Are you okay?" And the reality is that you're allowed to not be okay right now, and it's not some like red flashing light. It's
No.
totally normal to be uncomfortable and to be going through it. There definitely are things that are red flashing lights in this moment that you cannot ignore. But I wonder how people are perceiving my content right now. Probably in the same way you wondered how people would feel about your book when they read it.
Yeah, sometimes I hear from people who are like, I couldn't read it when I was pregnant, and I couldn't read it right after I had a baby, but like 3 months after I was ready to read it, or like a year after. And I do, you just have to tell yourself that that's their decision, whether, not like somebody can mute you if you're freaking them out, if they're like 8 months
Yeah.
pregnant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love when you were like literally crying because it felt too soon to go back to work. Like, people can write that in a comment with a beautiful picture of the baby, but that's like different than seeing it, you know. You're still going to work, but you're gonna
Yeah.
have a little breakdown beforehand, and like that is like almost universal, like
Yeah.
it feels so vulnerable because usually you only want to share that after the fact, and after
Right.
you're already better.
I think it's really interesting to be doing this in real time because of the honesty and because it is such a universal human experience, right? I think if you look at a lot of like influencer content, it's what they want it to be, right? And I think that the community, the good mom community that we're building is here because it's the exact opposite of that, right? And this is the stuff that doesn't often get shared and it it is kind of scary and that is okay in my opinion. And I think that's part of why I'm doing it is that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be scared. Like I don't want to run away from fear my entire life, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to sit in it and be really uncomfortable. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah, and I think maybe having a baby like a decade ago for me, I wasn't there. Like I didn't understand yet. If I
Yeah.
wish that is one thing, like I felt like a little young or immature, even though I was 30 years old. But I it's the ability to sit in discomfort and know that doesn't make you a bad person if you're uncomfortable. I think
Yeah.
there's that feeling like influencers or anybody, the media, you think like if I'm not having this blissful time, something's wrong with me,
Right.
and it's it's like, no, these people are lying to
It's
everyone and
exactly that. It's
themselves.
exactly what you just said. It's like just because I'm having a hard time today doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And I think that
No.
moms in our hearts, that's what we're seeking, right? Because this
Yeah.
identity shift, parenthood is challenging. It is difficult, but it doesn't mean that like you are a bad person if it is hard sometimes. And I think that is what is really resonating in this community is that like we are able to be like, you know what, I had a hard day today. I'm having a hard week, but guess what? Like you're still a good mom. It's like I
Yep.
know the name of the show is tongue in cheek, but it's also to a certain degree super earnest
I
because
know
you
you want to
have to
hear
hear
that.
that stuff. I want to pivot a little bit to the C-section of
Oh,
it
yeah.
all. I had a C-section. I read everything that you wrote, and I found it unfortunately after I had a C-section, and I wish that I had found it before. Something, I don't know if you can go back and like edit those articles because I know they're from a little while ago, but
Yeah.
there's this one of the articles was like the critical things you need if you're going to have a C-section, and something that was missing from your list is
Ooh.
this C-section bar. It's like a bar handle that you stick under your mattress that you can
Okay.
grab onto as you're laying
Oh
down to help
shit.
pull you up out of bed.
That's
And
genius. Wow. I didn't
somebody
like
told me about it. I can't remember how I figured it out, but now I like shout it from the rooftops. If you have a C-section, you need the surgery
that's
bar.
the hardest part is getting laying down and getting up a million times in the middle of the night and it's just like excruciating.
Oh my God. Yes. Like, oh my God, the baby's crying. I have to feed the baby. I have to pee. Yeah, it's tough. I was presented with a choice and I chose a C-section. And then 38 weeks, I went to my 38-week appointment and the doctor was like, guess what? Your blood pressure's really high. Like, see you in the OR in a couple hours. Like, you're going to meet your baby today, which was terrifying because I was not prepared that day to give birth. So it went from elective to emergency, like in a hurry, but it still, to a certain degree, was calm and peaceful because
Mhm.
I had not been laboring for 27 hours, right? I still had the opportunity to go in without facing any of that like physical or emotional trauma, kind of like
Yeah.
going into it. There's something that you wrote in your tiny letter, and I think it was kind of one of the like original moments of Meaghan O'Connell, like talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And it resonated with me so much, and I want to read it for you and for our listeners. You
Okay.
wrote, I wanted the C-section so
Oh
badly.
no.
I wanted it like you want a glass of water at a stranger's house, but you still feel like you should demur. I was thinking like a woman. I was in the most essentially oppressed, essentially female situation I've ever been in, and I was mentally oppressing myself on top of it. The moment I nodded my head to the doctor and consented to the operation that was good for both me and my baby was the moment I became a mother.
Yeah.
Holy shit, Megan. I
It still
burst into tears reading that a few weeks ago.
is.
Oh my God, it pierced me.
Yeah, I still remember it. I still remember being like, I want it, but that's bad. Like that's the failure, and but I was like, no, and for me, hopefully most people don't have a problem asking for what they want, but my life at that time, it was like a moment of, you know, like, no, this is what I want and it's reasonable and I'm gonna say it.
Is this
And
just
yeah.
is this just all of our like internalized misogyny being like, don't get the C-section, like you have to labor and like
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd, like 11 years. I have like a, a tween downstairs, and it's like the idea that that mattered in that moment. Like, I know birth can be this like incredibly empowering thing, and it's like a significant moment, but yeah, as
I
if
mean,
that would change like what kind of mother I was or something.
but
It's,
I think what I really found in this piece of writing specifically is that, like, this is the moment that you became a mother, right? This is the moment that you stopped being afraid,
mhm.
stop like backing away from the things that you don't want, and instead was like, yes, I'm going to do this. And it fundamentally changed you as a person, that decision. And I think probably enabled you to step into your
Yeah.
momhood, right? And become a different person that ultimately is now responsible for the life of somebody else, where you do have to make all of the decisions, right? You
Yeah.
have to be like, yes, 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 no, I need this, you don't need this, yes, no, right? I think
Yeah.
that is the point to me that is super interesting, right? Like your personal evolution within, I don't know, tell me about your C-section. Like,
Well, I was gonna say that that internal turn still happens all the time in parenting. It's like
mm,
you're like, am I gonna make myself and someone else uncomfortable on behalf of my kid? It's like, am I gonna
mm,
reach out to the teacher and be like, actually, somebody's messing with him, or like he needs more, and it goes against my impulse to be like, I'm fine, I'm easygoing.
mhm.
But like that's so much part of parenting is like standing up for yourself and your kid. And so
Yeah.
I do think that was like a critical moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, the difference between that C-section and then I had another kid 4 years later, Sam, and I had a elective C-section, like kind of how you experienced, where you like walk over to the surgical
The
table.
OR.
It's so surreal. Yeah.
So scary.
And the like nurses are just playing music, and I remember Ed Sheeran was playing when my son was born. I was like, "Ooh, okay."
Is that what you picked? Because they
No,
let me pick. I
they
picked
did not let me
Casey.
pick.
Oh, I picked Casey Musgraves because
Oh
during
wow.
all of my IVF, I would play her song Cardinal. Every time I would give myself an injection, I would turn on Casey. Okay, sorry. All
Amazing.
right, so you're listening to Ed Sheeran and you walk into the OR.
Yeah, so this time was so different, but and that was another kind of example where I had to voice to the OB against my instincts to be like, I had a really hard time with my last birth. And I that the first birth was in New York City and this was in Portland, so it was like a whole different ball game. And I had to say, and my therapist like talked me through it. It was like I had a traumatic experience with my first birth, and like nothing truly bad happened, but I did have PTSD for a while after I gave
Mhm.
birth. And so saying that and like taking up that space, she was like, "Oh, okay, like this is really common." I was crying and she's like, "This, happens to a lot of women, and I'm going to
Right.
write something down in your chart and we're going to be cognizant of it, when it comes time, the day of." And I was like, "Okay." And it actually made all the difference in the
Anyway,
world.
good stuff.
Yeah. And like the nurses were like, "Oh, like you've been through this before, you had a hard time." And it just like set the tone. Like the anesthesiologist came in. I remember her just like squeezing my foot because I was crying. Like it was all coming back, and I'm anticipating the same feelings of being like abandoned and in pain and nobody cares is how it felt at the time, the first time. Um, and just for them to say like, "We know you had a bad experience and like we're going to do everything we can. You're in control. You tell us, like tell us if you're not comfortable, tell us if when you're ready, if you're not ready." And that was just the opposite experience I had the first time, where I just felt kind of how I wish, like I wrote in the book, like I wish they took me seriously and talked to me like a grown up, and um, helped me feel like I had some control in the situation, even though you don't control it. There are things you can control.
Right. Yeah. In your first C-section, what happened that led up to requiring a C-section? I will be honest with you. I was not prepared for how much of motherhood is just logistics, like actual operational problem solving constantly. I am running a company. I live in New York City. I'm getting in and out of meetings and coffee shops and ride shares, and I have the baby. And the gear either works for that life or it does not. Nuna works. The Swiv stroller specifically is what we have. All four wheels have 360-degree rotation, so you can move side to side and pivot instantly, which in a city it means you're not doing like a 7-point turn to get through a doorway. I cannot tell you how helpful the Swiv is in this instance. My husband said we have to have the Swiv specifically for these wheel features. And thankfully, I was like, yeah, we're getting the Swiv. I also walk my dog with it, and that used to feel like very hard, but it's not anymore. The Pippa Air car seat, we have that also. It clicks into ride shares or just any car so cleanly. If you live in ride shares, though, like I do, you understand why that matters. And the whole car seat line is made without added fire retardant chemicals, which, as someone who thinks a lot about what goes in and on our bodies, I really appreciate. The bassinet has also been amazing for the early weeks, too. The whole system, it just works. So if you are navigating the purchase of a stroller right now, check out nunababy.com or pop into Nordstrom to see it in person.
So it was Brooklyn in 2014, which was for me like peak natural birth culture. I was like
Oh, wow.
all in, like I took, all the prenatal yoga classes, all the natural birth classes. I went to like a workshop for carrying your baby, breastfeeding. Like I was just doing my homework and not thinking too much about like my actual values. I just wanted to do it the right way.
Hmm.
And so I got totally pulled into that. And then 10 days went by. So I was 10 days overdue and they were like, "We're going to have to induce you." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't, that's terrible." So I went, but then the day I was going to be induced, I went into labor, but then I just stayed in labor and didn't progress. And, for a
Mhm.
while it got down to like 6 minutes between contractions, then went to 10 and 15. And basically 2 days passed and that sucked. Like, it was, after a while you hit a wall where you're like, this isn't, I mean, I know some women push through and do it, but I was like, I'm exhausted. I am in so much pain. This doesn't feel empowering at all?
Yeah, I think after 2 days of labor and it really being challenging, you don't really need to feel badly about that
Right?
or have any expectation that you should push through.
Oh my God.
Um,
Yeah. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people push through, but
yeah,
my goodness.
right. So I went to the hospital and, they were like, you're not dilated enough. When I found out I was like 3 centimeters dilated after days of labor, that sucked. And they're like,
Yeah.
go for a walk. I'm like, okay. It was I was just trying to eat. I couldn't. I was too much pain. I come back and I'm like, I want the epidural. Like, jig is up. I don't care anymore. Like, the person who didn't want an epidural is not me. Like, that was,
Brooklyn Mama 2014 now wants the epidural.
and my husband was like, are you sure we talked about this? I'm like, fuck off. No, I want it. Like, I didn't know what this would be like. And it's true. You don't know what it's going to be like when you make a plan. So they gave me the epidural, but the problem, what happened, and like this is what honestly traumatized me, I think, is that the epidural didn't work. It like faded. And so that feeling of like, I'm calling it, I'm asking for help, and then the help didn't arrive, that, and everyone being like, oh, this happens. And I don't know what they could have done to like make it better, but it just was a really bad feeling. And I don't know how many hours passed where the epidural was like half working. They had to do it again and move me around. And I felt like I was like, you could just knock me out and pull the baby out, right? Like, I don't care anymore. I felt just like on the verge of death. Not literally, but like
Well,
just,
I think kind of literally.
yeah, yeah,
We don't have to sugarcoat it here. I think that
yeah, yeah. I always,
laboring and, labor to that degree for that long is one of the most intense physical conditions a human can go through and endure. So I wouldn't minimize it if I were you.
I know,
Like,
as it's like I watch The Pit now, and they're talking about somebody, their heart rate being at 120, and I'm like, my heart rate was at 140 something when I was, bad, but
you were in medical distress,
I
my
was,
girl.
I think I had an infection. I had like I put it in the birth story, but they filled a diaper with ice and put it on my head, which was so like, something about that. It's like, you have no dignity at this point.
Yeah, there's something really spooky, to be honest, about the idea of being abandoned in a controlled medical environment, right? And the epidural stopping to work and getting uncomfortable, and it continues on and it continues on. And I will not talk about it too much because I don't want to make you upset,
No.
but I'm sure that that is something that when you think about it to this day freaks you out. Like, there's things that when I go back and visit my experience in the hospital, I think about them just for a blip, and then I have to be like, "Oh my God, I can't think about that. It's too awful. I can't think about it." Right? And I just shove it down and push it away
Yeah.
because what will happen if I continue to think about it and face it? I don't know.
Maybe in a year or two you can do that
Maybe,
slowly.
yeah,
It honestly, having that elective C-section is what, I don't want to say healed, but in a way like healed me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because it was like
You got to try again.
yeah, and it's not like a great, advice. Just have another baby. You'll heal your birth trauma. But and I didn't expect it, but something about knowing that's what I wanted, the C-section, and asking for it. I went through it again. I was like, do I deserve this? Like, shouldn't I be doing a VBAC? And isn't this, I felt like that was the pressure, was to do the VBAC. And I was like, you know what? If I do that fucking VBAC and it fails and I have to go through all that again, I don't know if I'll be okay. Like, I
Yeah.
can't, I didn't want to find myself in that position where I felt like abandoned and near the edge of like staring into the void. I was like, I can't do that again. I'm not going to actually is, and
Yeah.
you have, like you said, you can, you have the ability to say like, no, I'm not. I don't know where I'm going with that, but
No, you
like,
do. I mean, it seems to me that this has been a huge moment of personal growth for you, right? In terms of like having authority over your own decisions in your own life that probably extends beyond just birth,
oh, for
right?
sure. Yeah,
You
beyond.
know, I'm sure it comes up in many different aspects of your life. Yeah, like I'm so curious. I have yet to meet somebody who has a positive birth story. I'm sure as I say this on the show, I will get a lot of DMs. I would
Yeah.
love to actually have a positive birth story episode. So if you have had a positive birth story, please DM me your story,
I do
please. Because, yeah, I mean, my moment, my C section,
think.
like your second,
Mhm.
was calm and nice. Yes, I was terrified walking into
Yeah.
the OR. Like walking into that OR, oh my God. Um, my very scary moment came a day after I had a C-section. I fainted in my hospital room and like my blood pressure skyrocketed and all of these nurses and doctors had to run into the room and basically rescue me and try to like figure out what was going on.
Jesus.
And I I assumed that I was like having a brain aneurysm because I had such a crazy headache during
Oh,
this moment and
blood pressure. Yeah.
um one of my grandmothers passed from a brain aneurysm. And so I'm just like, oh my God,
That
this is
immediately comes up.
happening. This is happening to me. And like, holy shit. And my like brand new baby is at the end of the bed. And I'm
Right.
just like, oh my,
Mm.
the terror was like, anyway, that's the thing that like, I can't even believe I just said those things out loud. I can't think about that moment. It is like really just, oh my God, it really, it's like, whew, it's really hard for me to think about that time because I truly thought I was like, this is it, and this is awful, and this is terrifying, and I'm like leaving my husband and this day old baby, and
Right.
holy fucking shit, this is like how my story ends.
And don't you think that's part of like you're trying to process, like suddenly you have a child you have to take care of, and it's like this huge responsibility, and I feel like in my brain it'd be like, of course, now I'm gonna die because like I finally had my baby, so
Now
it's
I'm gonna
over.
die, right? I checked the box, and now,
You
now
said,
to the grave.
I swear, it's like the other shoe obviously has to drop, and like that shoe is gonna
Correct.
be me dying.
Yes. I actually would like to talk about something that you wrote that is about death. You wrote,
Great.
I know, isn't this so fun? It's probably super healing. You wrote, "We created a death" in the book. And I like have to ask you about that line specifically because like I read it and something in me just like cracked open because I have felt that holding my little girl, but I didn't have the words for it until I read that. Like the fear of what we have created, the mortality of it, like the weight of being responsible. It like sits in this really dark, quiet place. And that's another place that I do not like to visit. And I'm curious how you hold that space in your own life because those were your words. I couldn't have come up with them, but
Oh,
you're like a literary
sorry.
genius, so you did.
I mean, there's something about birth. It's so close, like this baby wasn't here, like I didn't, I don't know how to say, like, I don't recommend sitting in this place. I didn't so much with my second, but the headspace I was in with my first, I just watched him breathe and was like, he could just stop so easily. And like we all could, we just go about our lives not thinking about it because it's hard to function. But something about the baby that wasn't there and that, you have to do safe to sleep, like put him on his back with nothing around him. And you feel like in a, I took on too much mentally, but I was like, I'm responsible. I created him. Like every breath, and that's anxiety. I felt like I had to monitor. Like if I'm not watching, what's gonna happen? It
Right.
was like too much. Like that's a bad sign. But and I think with my second, you could feel the temptation, but I was like, that's not like you were saying. I'm not gonna go down that hallway because it's not productive.
Mm.
But it's true, like you created a life and everybody dies, and it's just you can't think about it too much. I don't know. Like that's how I function with big kids. Is my kids are 7 and 11, and you can torture yourself or not. And you just have to teach them how to be people in the world. And we lived this long. They probably will too. Knock on wood.
Yeah, the mortality of it all, man. A bummer. Do you um do you think that your sons will read your first book? I know you're working on another book.
Mm.
Do you think that they'll read the first one and like
How
what
do
do
I?
you think what do you think about that?
I do feel like sometimes I'm setting the stage, like they haven't. But I'm like, it wasn't about you. It was about my, experience becoming a mother. And really, and people get annoyed that I didn't name my kid. His name is Henry. He doesn't care now, but like at the time, I'm like, I don't know if he wants people to know his name. He's a baby. He can't like consent. And also, I wanted to emphasize that it wasn't about him. Like
Mhm.
it was about my identity crisis and transformation and experience and mental illness, and um, so that in a way, it's the baby is like an inciting force. And so yeah, but and I remember people being like, "You're," or I don't even know, maybe yeah, it's like you imagine the most hateful review of the book or like memorize them, but it's just like this kid is gonna be feel so like horrified and rejected, and I'm just like, no, like my child is smart kid who understands like what motherhood is like and how hard it can be, and it has nothing to do with him, like
Yeah.
um, so yeah, we talk about like they know their birth stories. We talk about them on their birthdays, and and Sam, the younger one, kind of like brags about how his was easier. And, it's just kind of part of our family lore. And they know that like breastfeeding is a lot of work, and I didn't love it. And we one of the stories we always laugh about is Henry like biting my boob and laughing. I screamed because it hurt so bad, and then I burst into tears, and he just laughed at me. He's like 10 months old or something. But it's like, it's just funny. And yeah, so I want, like, we talk about it enough that I wouldn't be like, oh God, they can't read it. They could read it because they know that was a different time. I'm a different person.
Yeah,
It's not
I
about them.
understand. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's a powerful piece of writing because again, I think it was one of the books that started to open up this conversation amongst ourselves, like mom to mom, but also moms to people who are not moms. Because, sorry, guys, if you're a siren, we're recording in New York City. Um, I think when I was pregnant and like starting to have experiences that like felt a little bit uncomfortable, I was
Yeah.
so worried that if I talked about that, people would be like, well, you don't like being a mom. And it's the exact opposite, right? It's
Right.
being able to understand the distinction between I am extremely in love with my child and also this experience and this identity shift is
Mhm.
allowed to exist separately. They're two
Yeah.
different things. And yeah, it's like the like stupid people in the comment section that are like, oh my God, it's like, it either has to be like all or nothing, right? And I think that your book resonated so much when it first came out and still does. And all of these conversations resonate is because moms are being validated and seen as individuals versus just, oh, this has to be about your kids because becoming a mom is really not about your kid.
Yeah.
Truly, it's
It's not.
not. It's
Yeah.
about this remarkable identity shift that, yes, the child is the catalyst, but the
Yeah.
identity shift exists in its own universe. It's its own thing, right? And I think that being seen and like being like that is okay is like what is so powerful about your writing and like why I really love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have a memory of writing an essay about, I think it was about dealing, like, making sense of my postpartum body, like looking in the mirror for the first time and being like, what is this? Because your whole life has changed, and it would be nice if, like, you were still recognizable to yourself, at least physically, but you're
Yeah,
not.
totally. I see like these memes that are so well intentioned, obviously, and I probably just have to get to some like higher version of myself to buy in, but
Mhm.
it's like your body did something amazing and you should love this version of your body. And I'm like, I want to, but I'm not there yet.
And that's
And it's
okay. I think,
hard.
yeah, it's like, it's bad enough to feel alienated from yourself, but then to feel bad that you feel that way is like meta guilt. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Just,
it's like people telling you what to do and how to feel from both sides, right?
yeah.
It's like, oh, like you should work on getting your body back. And the other side is like,
Mhm.
Brooklyn 2014. No, you should love your new body, right? Like we can't win. I don't know.
You can't.
What I do know is that I didn't know that a C-section shelf would be like a C-section
Mhm.
shelf. And like
Yeah.
I think for me that is the specific part of my postpartum body that I'm really
It's
struggling
not,
with
it's not
again. Like
fun. It's not cute.
it's not fun, it's not cute. And again, I'm like, "Oh my God, I elected to have a C-section and now I have a C-section shelf." Like, what?
It'll
What have
get
I done?
better.
That is
Like,
so like stupid to feel and
it,
so like self-centered and what's the word when you're like worried about what you look like? It's like
vain.
vain, vain. It's so vain, but
It's your body,
I just
I
can't
don't know.
help it.
That will get better. I do want to tell you that for
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah,
Thank you, Megan.
definitely. Um, but it is, yeah, it's like, oh, but I was gonna say, I remember filing that essay to the cut, and like some executive editor was giving it a top edit, and she wrote like this comment, and it was in all caps, because that's what they do sometimes, but she was like, emphasize here how much she loves her baby, or something. I was like, oh, come on. Like, do we have to say that? Like, I feel like that's obvious, but fine.
The cut and all caps sounds pretty terrifying. I love reading the cut, but I am also terrified of the cut.
Me too.
You what do you mean? You've written for the cut. How are you scared of the cut?
I'm still scared.
Scary ladies over at the cut. If you're listening to this, please be nice to us. We
Nice.
beg of you. Again, this has been such a great episode for me personally. We both have had the C-section experience. Your book is just, it's like a beautiful work of art in my
Yeah.
estimation. And I hope that everybody listening to today's episode definitely checks it out. Again, it's called And Now We Have Everything on Motherhood Before I Was Ready. If you love, because how could you not? The Good Mom community, please subscribe and follow wherever you are listening or watching this podcast, listening to or watching this podcast. And I don't know if you guys know, but I have a newsletter on Substack that I publish once a week. And in the Substack, I go a little bit deeper into each episode. I reflect on the episode once I've listened to it back. And so I would love it if you checked out my Substack as well. But today, everyone, just thank you, Meaghan O'Connell, so much for being such a great guest and for being so honest and vulnerable. And yeah, like bravo.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so happy this podcast exists. I wish I would have had it when I was a new mom.
Thank you so much.
You're a good mom. You're doing a good
You're
job.
a good mom. I have to remember to like tell the people that come on the show, you're a good mom. That's the whole point of the show. You're a good mom, Meaghan.
Thank you. Still hits.